Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 81 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choi. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, often comedians and other artists, about their lives and careers. It's casual conversation, but I also ask everyone to highlight someone they love, someone who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is @peoplewelovepodcast. And I'm @AdamChoit on Instagram if you want to follow me too. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. I'm getting really good at that opening spiel there. I should change it up though, so people who have heard it a million times won't get as bored. But anyway, today's guest is comedian, writer, and actor Cara Connors. Originally from the Chicago suburbs, this tomboy grew up loving both sports and TV. Although school and being a teenager wasn't always easy, and she didn't love all of her teachers, one teacher and now great friend, Kim, had a profound influence on her. Cara's journey has taken her from Illinois to New York to Toronto and to LA, and Kim has always been an awesome, supportive friend. Let's just get started. Here's Cara Connors. So it's good to see you today, Cara Connors. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you hanging in there during the super fun 2020?
Honestly, I'm picking up a lot of weird hobbies, so that's good. I've started embroidering a lot. I've actually been reading again, so there's...
Well, it's not that weird. They're weird for you, maybe. Is that what it is? They're weird
for me. I haven't been doing any shit like that in so long, so we'll focus on that positive aspect.
Yeah, I may read something. I'm thinking about it.
Think about it. Yeah, take your time with it, though.
Packaging on the food I purchase. That's
yeah,
what I read.
Exactly.
What are the ingredients in this?
That's all you really need to get by.
Yeah, we can just get right into it and you could tell me about your life, because otherwise we're just going to end up having a depressing conversation about something negative that's going on in the world.
This is true.
So we might get there anyway. We probably will get there.
That's right.
But why don't we get into your life and tell me where you kind of grew up and what do you remember from the early years, pre-kindergarten ages? I'm always curious what people remember about before they're even 5 years old, if anything jumps out.
Wow. I grew up in Niles, Illinois, which is a little suburb outside of Chicago. I honestly have really limited memories before the age of 5. I have some preschool memories, kind of aggressive finger painting, always making weird little necklaces. I remember taking a gymnastics class and already at age 4 them being she's too big to be a gymnast.
Was that aggressive finger painting or aggressive finger painting? What were you were just
aggressive
describing
finger
yourself?
painting.
Okay.
Yeah, really not being afraid to make a mess for sure.
That's good. So the early personality traits are kind of forming already, perhaps, at this age?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair to say.
And you grew up outside of Chicago. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have 3 older brothers.
3 older brothers, wow. Is that, we'll get into that. Was that, what are the pros and cons of having of 3 older brothers?
I think that, the pro would be, there's definitely kids who grew up with 3 older brothers who probably it was the opposite, but I think I was a pretty sturdy, kind of tough kid anyway, but I think it definitely made me tougher and I was definitely very sporty and already was a tomboy. So it probably was in a lot of ways my parents felt like they had 4 boys.
Yeah. But you're saying it was more just you being you, and some of having the influence, of course, having 3 older brothers must have an influence on your life. Yeah. But it seems like it was still you being you.
I think so.
What made you what was different about you and your brothers? Even between your brothers, what were the differences between them?
I think that we were definitely a very sport focused family and a very, I think it's fair to say that in some ways we were slightly feral. We were very kind of raised the way that kids more were raised like in the 60s and 50s, very just like we were always kind of like out, like out in the yard, like out at parks, like at our friend's house, kind of like crawling all over the neighborhood. So I think that we had like a lot of freedom in terms of like the differences. Like, I mean, I like to think that as the baby, I like to think that I was, kind of special. Being the only girl. But, that's probably just a narrative I built up in my head over time.
Right. Well, that kind of is the narrative, I suppose. It's
Right.
part of the narrative. The part of the narrative. When you say sporty, do you mean like you guys played organized sports and were competitive people, or were just like
Yeah.
outdoors people, or both?
Like competitive people. Like I was like playing, like that was kind of my whole life, like all until like college, really. Like, I mean, I was playing on like the boys little league team kind of thing. And then like eventually I think I switched. I remember being like maybe in 4th or 5th grade, like finally switched over to playing like girls softball. Like that became a thing that was available, as though we once again live in the 50s. But like prior to that, I was always kind of like that, but unorganized too. Like I was the girl who was like at recess would choose to play like flag football instead of whatever.
Sounds like you guys are probably good athletes, though, as a family, even, or did you just love sports? A little, you like, how good were you guys? I guess is the question.
Yeah, right. I know you can be super sporty and play a lot of sports and still fucking suck. That's for sure.
Trust me, I know.
We were I think we were pretty athletic, like pretty competitive and up there. Yeah.
What about academics? Were you guys good students and competitive and all
my
about succeeding in that too?
Yeah, my brothers were definitely not super academically minded. I was like more serious about school. I think because I always have had this like very strong need for like approval. And so I very much was like, I'm going to be the best student. I'm going to be the best sporty girl. I'm going to be like perfect little kid. Like I always had that kind of personality. So I took school more seriously, for sure.
Yeah, even in elementary school, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Elementary school is not usually the most challenging part of people's academic careers anyway.
That's true, but you can make it, it's amazing. You can really give yourself as much pressure as you want to.
I feel like I can picture you in the elementary school age, and you sort of answered a lot of the questions about, your family and what you guys did, and liking sports and being a tomboy and being a student who wanted to do well. Were you like the best student in your the smartest student in your school or anything like that when you were, young?
No, definitely not. Like I mean, like, I think I was always kind of like really, like up there. Yeah, maybe in like elementary school, middle school. But by the time I got to high school, like that very quickly was like, I was like, you know what? I'll try to be the best in my class in the middle classes. Cause it was just like, once you got into like honors and AP and all that shit. Yeah, I was like, I have no desire to kill myself in like AP bio. Like, I just didn't see the point. And my parents were not pressuring it. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna
I feel like I wonder if looking back, like who the smartest kids, even in like high school, let's say, or middle school, were they really like pushing themselves super hard to be the best and get the best grades? Or was it more, did they really just enjoy it, but at the same time it sort of came easy to them? Like I don't think everyone, like every high school student is like, I have to be the number one, I got to take Adderall and do all this shit and like become number one. I don't know if everyone's like that. I think some people are just smart and it's just like they enjoy
for sure
material and they digest material like
I think so. I mean, there's the different like brands of kids, right? Like I remember those people that I went to like high school with who were just brilliant and, who went to school to become engineers or whatever it was. And like, they still had to like work hard, but I do think, not to say that you shouldn't work hard and you can't get to a certain level, but if you are just naturally like brilliant at math and then you also work hard and have an interest in it, obviously it's going to shake out easier for you.
Yeah, it's like I'm thinking of like LeBron, I'm thinking of like sports where it's like you might not have to work super duper hard to be the best in your high school, but to be like one of the best in the country, in the world, the top in your profession, even with natural talent and even when enjoying what you're doing,
Yeah.
But you still have to
There's
work
no
hard,
one
I
that's at
think, to get
that
better.
level that's not working their ass off for sure.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
Jesus Christ? Did he supersede to, is he able to
Thank
escape
you
these laws
so
these laws of nature?
thank you so much for bringing up Jesus. No,
I
I
just
went
couldn't. Yeah, I just converted from Judaism in the middle of this podcast. Not that I'm super religious or anything.
I mean, I went to Catholic high school, so that is sort of the peak of my
Look at that
uh
transition, that segue I just did,
yeah,
without even
religious
knowing it.
experience. That's right.
Is Catholicism your family's religious background?
Yes, I mean my mom was raised like Irish Catholic, my dad is Greek Orthodox. And then all of us were like raised Catholic, but like very loosely, like it's much more of like a cultural thing. Like we never went to church, we never like were praying at home, but I did go through all the like I was baptized, I got my confirmation, I went to a Catholic high school. Um but it was never like it felt a little bit just kind of like putting through the motions, like, okay, this is what you're going to do. But it wasn't like a big faith based household.
Yeah. Before we get into high school, what were you into as far as like TV shows, movies, other cultural things, music? You said you did some stuff in the arts even when you were younger. You were doing sort of
Yeah.
creative, but were you
When,
even into comedy or like music? What
when I
other
was like a little
yeah,
kid.
or even in middle school, like
Yeah.
in your adolescence, like what were you kind of into, if anything, beyond sports and
Yeah.
academics?
I've always been obsessed with TV for sure. I mean, I loved like I did love comedy. I mean, I started watching SNL when I was like 5. So I definitely always was obsessed with SNL and Mad TV um and then, if it was my pick, I was definitely into just like a classic Disney Channel original movie. Loved that. Loved like like whatever sitcoms were on in the 90s, Friends, all that kind of shit. My house was weird because like if my mom was controlling the TV, it would be like Wheel of Fortune or like Dancing with the Stars, but if my dad was controlling the TV, it would be like Sopranos and Oz. So like kind of a weird range of shit. Um but yeah, I mean, in terms of music, like hardcore Spice Girls, Hanson, boy bands, like definitely was into that. And then maybe in middle school, I definitely went through like a 4-year long kind of like pop punk emo phase where I like thought I was really hardcore, but I listened to like Good Charlotte,
Yeah.
which is not hard. Believe it or not hardcore.
You could still enjoy the music without necessarily thinking you're hardcore, though. But you did at the time think you
Oh,
were.
but I absolutely did. I was like, hell yeah. Like, look at my fucking cool ass shirt that I got from Hot Topic and like brand new Converse that my friends, we would like scuff each other's Converse so that we like looked cool. So
And
ridiculous.
yeah, and what about high school and going to Catholic school? Was that a good experience? And tell me about that.
I so I went to 2 high schools. Like I went to an all girls Catholic school first, and then we moved and I went to a co-ed Catholic school. The all girls Catholic school was like largely a good experience. Like I made a lot of good friends and I had fun on like the social aspect, but I think I definitely didn't respond to the increased discipline in the way that I think that my parents maybe hoped that I would. Like
Well,
I got
yeah, give me
into
specifics.
like I got into way more trouble in high school. Like I never got into trouble in school until I got to high school and it was more strict. Like I think that I just kind of bumped up against what I felt, and maybe it's just being a teenager in general, and maybe I would have done that anyway, but I definitely bumped up against what I felt were like hyper controlling rules that Catholic schools can also have, like often have. Like you just get detention for every single thing, and it was hard for me to just kind of like fall in line with that. Like I had a gym teacher who was I mean, she was a bitch. She was really rude and like I felt like she picked on me all the time and she gave
Her
me
name
detention like every day.
Her name is not Kim, right?
No.
Just making sure.
No. I won't
Otherwise,
say her
maybe
name.
that would be quite a journey.
No,
You
I
know,
won't
the
say her
story would
name,
be.
but she knows who she is, and she was rude and gave me a detention like every single day, and I was like, you will not break me, bitch.
You know what's funny? I don't remember really hating any of my teachers. I don't have ill will towards
Mm,
any of my teachers, and then even with each passing day, less of my
yeah,
fellow students as well. I
yeah,
suppose I hear it's
yeah.
not good to hold grudges.
It's not. I mean, am I over it? Not completely. But do I wish her ill will in the present day? No, but I do think that she was shitty.
Do you have nightmares about this gym teacher? What did she make?
I
She
don't.
just yelled and was just and she was just kind of nasty person. She wasn't pleasant to be around. Is that kind of
She
it?
just would like, yeah, I mean, we just kind of locked into each other and had like a bad dynamic. And it was just like every day I felt like she found a small thing to kind of give me, a detention for. And then eventually it got to the point where we just weren't getting along so much that the dean of discipline at my school, whose name is Sister Sally, and that's not a joke, she worked out an arrangement with me where if I was in gym class and I felt like I was going to do something that was going to get me in trouble, that I was allowed to tell my gym teacher. I'd actually like to excuse myself and go and see Sister Sally, and she would just like let me sit in her office and hang out, and like that was kind of cool. I won't forget that. That was a good move.
Did you legitimately like use that
Oh yeah,
option? Like, what there were
all
points where you
the time.
got so mad at her and annoyed that you had to leave? Was that like the
I would
times when you left?
It was just like she would tell me, if you're going to do something that's going to get you in trouble, yeah, you can excuse yourself at any time. I mean, I would go multiple times a week and I would sit in her office and like she would get me sometimes like a cookie from the cafeteria and she'd be like, just do your homework. And like, she'd be like, I'm doing my work. Don't bother me. You do your work. But like, she would just let me sit there and not, get myself into trouble.
Yeah, they're rewarding your bad behavior. No, but
That's right.
no, I believe you. No, but you didn't have any issues with any other teachers there.
No,
This
exactly.
this was at the first school, the
Mm-hmm.
all girls Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Yeah.
about the other school?
The other school, I mean, I was only there for like a year and a half. I didn't really have any like problems with other teachers. Like I mean I had one chemistry teacher my sophomore year that also I was not a fan of, but that wasn't just me. That was kind of like a universal
Yeah,
experience of the students.
I wasn't a fan of my chemistry teacher either. But looking back, perhaps I wasn't a fan of chemistry.
I was
Maybe
not a fan of either of those things.
yeah, maybe the combination of both. When did you meet the famous Kim? Was that the
Famous
first school?
Kim. I met her, I think I met her my sophomore year as well, actually.
At the first school?
Right. Yeah, she
Oh,
was
that
my
was at the
Spanish.
first school.
Yeah,
So that was a better experience than gym.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
tell me
think
about her in that class.
I mean, to be fair, I was definitely like going through my own, personal things at that time, which I think pretty much most people are. But I was
Sure,
definitely like,
teenagers.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely wouldn't characterize myself as like the most pleasant person to be around when I was like 16, 15. But yeah, no, I met Kim. She was like my Spanish teacher, and I was just like a grumpy, moody teenager, definitely like could be shiny and bright and happy if I sort of chose to be, but like was not often like that. But she was just sort of like relentlessly positive and caring towards like me and everybody that she taught.
That's awesome. How good
Mhm.
were you good at Spanish? You weren't a good student?
I mean, I was a good student. I was not excelling, I wouldn't say. I was like, but I could like hold my own and do it. But I think like, much with like we were saying earlier, like with certain subjects, like you do get to, and maybe I cut myself off too early, but it's like you get to a certain point, and I've been taking Spanish for like 4 or 5 years. I'm like, I don't really think this is gonna lay down that I'm gonna be like this fluent, prolific student unless
Right.
I decide to like really lock it down. My parents are not gonna let me go study abroad. So this is like I'm not gonna have that much exposure.
I wish I would have stuck with it because that's about what I studied, probably about 4 or 5
Yeah.
years of, and then it got harder about sophomore, junior year of high school. I'm
Right.
like, I'm out. It's not
I
for
know.
me. But looking
I
back, I
know.
wish I would have. I don't know, stuck with it, but in a
Same.
lower pressure atmosphere. Because
Yeah,
I don't care about the grades. I just want to learn how to speak a language and read a language and communicate with
I
people.
know. I think it's the communication thing, and like especially obviously, I mean really in any place I've lived, but in LA especially, like it does feel a little bit embarrassing and like incapacitating that's like I can't even speak Spanish and communicate with a huge amount of people. Like I should know when so many people know two languages, like it's nothing. Like I should
It
definitely
would
be
be
able to
people would be
communicate.
so impressed if I was like fluent in Spanish. Like I've seen people tweet and have this thought that like when Americans hear like a European who could speak two, three, four, five languages, we think they're
Yeah,
like a wizard. We think
right.
it's like
Oh
the
yeah.
most amazing thing. We're like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Just because the
Yeah.
person could speak a few languages, which is not an impossible thing to do, especially if you're learning it at an early age and you're around it. But
Yeah.
like, they're wizards.
And also like considering the fact that like I mean there's not really any excuse. If we wanted to learn a language we could. Like if I spend 9 hours a day staring at my phone, if I spent 2 of those hours a day trying to learn Spanish, I probably could figure it out, right?
Right. It's something I talk about doing all the time. It's like, oh,
That's
I'll
right.
download the app and I'll pay for it and I'll brush up
Uh-huh.
and I'll be fluent within a year or less or
That's
something.
right.
I do it every day, but you get caught up with other things. Tell me more about Kim. And as far as like, did your sort of like behavior, attitude, and outlook on life
Mhm.
like literally turn around from her, or did she kind of like set you on a different
Yeah.
path?
I mean, I honestly 100% like we have a very like a very like Hillary Swank and the Freedom Riders vibe, definitely like I still call her like my guardian angel. Like we connected when I was in high school, then I like, moved, went to a different school. She wasn't my teacher anymore and then she ended up leaving teaching like a year after that or so and we stayed like in touch and like eventually just became like really good friends like and she kind of has filled this role. Like it's always weird to kind of think like how I initially met her because now it's been so long and like I think that now like she's just become like such a really good friend and like important person and like is somewhere between like a mom and an older sister and a best friend. Like she's in that sort of zone
Yeah.
for me and has just really like looked out for me for like many years now.
Yeah, cause it's funny because I was thinking about, oh, maybe I'll ask like how old she is, like, or just like what's the kind
Mhm.
of the general age difference? Because I was just kind of curious, like, who am I picturing? Is this
Yeah.
like a mentor? Is this a grandma? Was she a
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
teacher that young hip teacher you connected with?
She was
But I
like a
can,
young lit teacher. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, that's why she can pull off almost like the older sister
Right, right. It's kind of like I
thing in your
mean,
mind. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of like when I was like a camp counselor one summer when I was in college and so I was like maybe 19 and I was a camp counselor like it was a sleepaway camp for the girls were like 15 and 16. You know what I mean? And so like now like I some of them, we still like follow each other on social media or like very occasionally we'll like exchange messages, but it's like it's kind of just this thing where it was like a few years later like there was a point where we were like both in college or they were a freshman and I was just whatever, so it's kind of like an interesting time. I think it's just like when you meet somebody when you're at that sort of like very formative age, if you happen to like really hit that connection and they look out
right.
for you, be really powerful.
Yeah, I needed a guardian angel when I was
Right.
that age.
I know, I wish everybody had that.
Who do I complain to? What is there a department I can complain to about not having a guardian angel?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's right. What what did you think you were going to do in like with your life, or like you said it sounds like you went to college, but
Yeah.
what were your plans to study college or do with your life beyond that? What were you thinking like where you were at in high school? Was comedy even a thing in your
No, I mean, comedy was comedy was always a thing that I loved to consume and always like since I was really little like told my parents like I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be on SNL, like that's pretty much what I'm doing, but never did anything like any steps in those directions, but like for fun I was always like I loved making, oh my god, if I would have had a cell phone when I was like a kid or like a teenager, like I don't even know how much stuff I would have made because I just had my parents like really shitty camcorder that was like you put VHS tapes in. But even like in middle school, like I was always making like parodies. Like I did like Napoleon Dynamite parody, like would like make little videos making fun of like MTV shows. And like, I just did that for fun. I wasn't like, there was nowhere to post it. There was no one who could see it, you know, but I thought I was going to be a therapist. That's what I went to school for.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're interested in, it's interesting to the human mind, how it works, people, relationships, all this stuff. It's kind of everything. It's
exactly.
It's funny because I did study film at college, and after sophomore year, I'm having like a panic attack, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with film degree? What am I going to do with this business? I'm going to go and start change to psychology or something like that.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I almost had that thought. I didn't do it, but like,
oh, okay.
What I was first asked, did you do any high school theater or anything organized before college? Nothing organized, just kind of the videos and stuff.
Yeah, the only like I definitely always wanted to be in musicals and like that kind of thing, but I was just like I was kind of packed with sports, and like the closest I ever got was like once or twice a year there would always be like a weird like talent search or something like at the local mall. And like, I would always make my mom take me to that, like whatever it was, you know, and I would always like put on my best, like Old Navy outfit. But that was pretty much, but my parents were like not trying to like have a child actor. They're like, no, like we both like work full time and have 4 children. Like, I'm not going to be driving you to auditions and shit.
Right. What college did you go to?
I went to Iona, which is like a random small college. Like it's in Westchester in New York. Like
yeah.
Yeah,
they have a basketball team, I think.
They do have a basketball team.
They've made the tournament. I know they've made the tournament here and there over the years. They don't make the tournament every year.
I definitely would not expect that they make it every year. But the basketball players I think were they were pretty serious dudes. Yeah.
So this was just like your first time away from home, away from the outside Chicago suburb, and you're going to undergrad school in New York or outside in Westchester.
Right.
Did you go into New York City a lot? How what is the exact distance like?
It was like a 40-minute like commuter train ride. So like a lot of people that like lived there, you know, commuted into the city every day. I was going into the city pretty much after my freshman year because that's where all my internships were. And then I got like nannying and babysitting jobs in the city. So I definitely I didn't really like my school or like the vibe of it. So I was trying to just kind of get out of there as soon as I could. And then even my junior year, I moved into Queens. Like I moved into Astoria, and then I would just like go onto campus like once a week and took all my classes. Like I'd go to class from like 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. because I just didn't like being there.
Interesting. But it sounds like you like New York City.
I love New York. Yeah. That's in my head. I was always like, I want to go to New York. Like all the shows that I loved, you know, I was like, I want to go live in New York, and I always wanted to live in LA. Those were like always the things I wanted to do. So
you did it. You did it. Check those off the list. So you were there Iona all 4 years,
right?
And you graduated, and you were studying. What exactly did you study? I know you said
psychology. Yeah, so I got my degree in psychology, and first I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to get a PhD and do like clinical psychology path. And then I got my first job out of college was as a research assistant. And I really did not like it. And it became very clear that I did not want to go to school and research for 7 years.
Why did you not like the researching? It was just boring, just very dry.
It was depressing and boring. And I mean, I don't regret any of it because like any time that I have like an experience where I'm like, okay, not for me, I'm like, great, move on to the next thing, get closer to something that I actually love. So
that's a good attitude.
I just was like, okay, it wasn't for me. I literally lasted like 4 months. My job was also horrifically depressing. I was mainly transcribing interviews that I was on a research. This is so depressing, but it's true. The research study that I was working on was like, they were researching teenagers who had attempted suicide. And so it was interviews with these teenagers. And my job 8 hours a day was typing up the interview, like transcribing it and like looking up art. It was depressing, very depressing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But well, they didn't. I mean, at least that they were. I'll be the optimist here. At least that
Right.
it was attempted, so they presumably survived. So
and they're trying to help them.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of the study is to help and understand, and how can we like reach different people. But yeah, I was just like, I was like, I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah. Well, so then where did we go? Were you living in New York after college?
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
I was living in the city, and then I kind of took a little break. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I worked at a bakery for a while. I went back to nannying. I was like applying to grad school for social work. I was like, okay, maybe that's what I should be doing. I'll be a therapist. And then the last job I had in New York, I worked at this this nonprofit. I was like a case manager, and it was basically like a nonprofit for kids that also was depressing, but I at least feel like we helped kids. But it was for kids who were like had really serious kind of like medical needs, or were very sick, or had really like serious disabilities, and they were living below the poverty line. So that was sort of the organization I was working for.
You want to help people.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when you get in there, it's like, oh man, this is depressing and hard, and probably not as lucrative as you'd like it to be.
Oh,
and I say all these things without judgment. Like,
oh yeah, no, I mean, I had no illusions that it would ever be lucrative, and I really liked working with the actual families and the kids. But yeah, case management also was not my calling.
All right, so then where do we go? We're still in New York, and it sounds like we're winding down in New York.
We're winding down in New York, yeah. Then I ended up applying to all these different grad schools, and I got into some programs in New York, and then I also had applied to some programs in Toronto. And then I ended up making the move to Toronto, and I went to grad school up there randomly and weirdly enough for teaching.
for teaching, and teaching like what subjects?
Like elementary education.
Gotcha. Well, what pushed you into that path? Just like, obviously a service where you're helping people. I'm speaking generally, but like what kind of pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, when I was kind of like wandering around trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do after college, like I had gotten into Teach for America, which is like a 2-year kind of program. And then like maybe 2 weeks before I was meant to start, I kind of freaked out and was like, I don't want to be a teacher. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, and I quit. And like, I was just kind of aimless and trying to figure out, I was just hovering in certain areas. I was like, I know I like working with kids. I know I want to help people, whatever. And so then, I wanted to go to Canada, and I got into the social work programs I wanted to in New York, but I didn't get into them in Toronto. And then I kind of last minute saw that like at the University of Toronto, they had like an extended deadline for their teaching program. And I was kind of like, maybe this is what I should do. Like, this is a good job. This is like stable, and like it hits a lot of my interests, and maybe that's what I'll do. So I just like did it.
Yeah, you kind of had an opportunity sort of was presenting itself, and you sort of had a pros and cons list in your head. And there were a lot of pros, so you went with it. So you were studying teaching in Toronto.
Yeah.
For a couple of years.
And if you can guess, also didn't like it.
You didn't like the program, or what came after the program?
I didn't, once I got into the placements, like, it was a 2-year program, and then you do like 4 different like student teaching assignments. Once I got actually kind of like out into the field, I also felt I have kind of and I'm glad that it like all worked out this way, because it all kind of worked out how it was meant to be. But I've always had sort of like a very high standard of like what I think a job should be. Like, I don't want it to just be a job. Like, I was really always searching for like a calling, like a passion, like I want to be obsessed with what I'm doing. And so I was like, I'll figure out something, and if it wasn't that, I was like, I don't want to be wasting my time doing it. And I
it's your time. Yeah. It's your time. It's your life.
Exactly. So, I have like a lot of friends who are teachers, obviously, and that really was their calling, and they were so great at it and loved it so much. And I was like, I don't want to be one of those teachers who's miserable. Like, when you have those teachers and you're like go do something else. Like, why are you torturing people by being miserable all the time?
Did you ever tell your gym teacher this?
I don't think I said that to her face, but I'm sure I said many other rude things.
It was understood in so many words.
Exactly. Go do something
understood.
else. You obviously had other dreams.
Were you in touch with your friend Kim over these kind of years in New York and even and moving to Canada as you go through these life's questions, what to do with your career? And was she kind of like to lean on?
Yeah, we're still in very close touch. I mean, we've only just gotten closer like over the years. She's always, she's come and visited me everywhere. Like we talk all the time. She's definitely been a huge kind of guiding post for me, for sure.
You're just gonna do you. You're gonna keep trying things until you find what you like, and she's just gonna listen to you. She can't get you on any sort of path. You're just gonna
people have to figure out that stuff. I think that's all that, like, that's sort of the beauty of friendship is, like, I'm not here to judge anyone. It's just, you're just here to, like, it's all voluntary, right? Like, our only, and not even just friends, but in general, like, our only goal and job is, like, let's just love each other and build each other up. Like, otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, no one tells anyone what to do there in a sense. But I've heard, talk to a lot of comedians, and we'll probably get to your story of how you got into stand-up. But there is that a lot of them do seem to have this friend where it's like, you're going to this open mic, I'm making you go, you're getting up there. So in a sense, like, other than short of that, like, a good friend is not someone who tells another friend what to do or how to live their life.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, but in that respect, I will say
knows when to push. A good friend can be someone who knows when to push you, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah. I think though, like, I have never really, like, needed a push. I've always been pretty, like, determined and kind of focused on stuff. But with comedy, I will say that once I started doing it and figured out, like, holy shit, this is absolutely what I want to do and this is what I'm meant to do, every one of my friends has only ever said, oh yeah, 100%, this makes complete sense. Like, no one has ever said anything besides that. So that feels good.
Great. How much time passed between when you first started doing comedy and when you, I guess, quit doing the teaching thing in Canada? What happened after the Canada teaching experience, basically?
So I started doing comedy my second year of grad school, and then I graduated, I got my degree, and I never did anything with teaching ever again. I went straight into doing comedy, and in terms of, like, supporting myself, the first thing that I was doing was, like, commercials. So pretty much right after I never pursued teaching. I almost quit grad school. I was like, I don't fucking need this shit. But then I was like, okay, at least get the degree. So I do have, everyone, it doesn't really comfort me because I'm never going to do it, but it seems to comfort other people that I could be like, if I needed to, I could go and teach in Canada K through 6. Although I don't think I would ever get hired at this point because I have, like, not been trying to have, like you could just Google enough shit that's just, like, even comedy or stand-up, that.
Yeah. It would have to be, you'd have to get hired based on someone who likes the idea of hiring the stand-up comedian. It's not going to be the regular person who discovers it and be like, wait, what is going on here? Or just got to be someone who's
maybe, but I don't think, like, at this point that's so far off. Like, that's not what I would just, like, ever really do. I'm never going to really go back to that.
It sounds like you stayed in Canada and did some, like acting commercials, you were saying, and doing stand-up in Canada after the grad school. But how did you really get into doing stand-up? Did you do an open mic? Like, what specifically happened in your life? What was going on then?
I took a stand-up class at Second City, actually, and it was just something that I'd, like, always kind of been interested in. And so I took a class, and, like, it was just like an 8-week course, like, once a week, basically trying to build, like, your first 5 minutes. I knew nothing about it. And my teacher was just, like, really nice and encouraging. And I honestly just fell in love with it. Like once I got into it, it was only like a few weeks where I was just like, hell yeah, this is it. I found it. Finally, I found what I want to do.
Yeah, so many people have that moment with this that I've talked to have that moment in stand-up. It's like, this is it. It feels so right. This is what I want to do. And it comes from different places. Like people have taken the 8-week classes. Other people just, I'm going to open mics, or like my friend has a show and then somehow into a show and do 3 minutes. Like,
I mean, I started going to open mics like right away. And like, it's like funny because when you're starting out doing stand-up, I mean, I've only been doing it, I just hit 5 years. And it's like funny because honestly, like when you're first starting out, like it really sucks. Like no one wants to give you stage time. Going to open mics largely is like terrifying because you don't know anyone. So it's really hard when you like don't have a friend to go with. You like walk into a room of strangers. Everyone's just looking at their own notes. You wait like 3 hours to go on stage. You go on stage. No one's laughing. No one's paying attention to you. It's kind of awful. And then like no one wants to give you stage time because they're not your friend. They don't know you. And probably because you suck. And so like.
Yeah, you're new. Like, and you probably do suck. Yeah. Like you're saying.
You absolutely suck. And like, I think that, so it's just like really funny. Like that's, I think why, like if you love stand up, like, if you love it and you're doing it from the beginning, you're like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. You absolutely do love it because it is pretty much terrible in every like objective way.
Yeah, if you like something you're so bad at that just getting one laugh or a couple laughs or
bombing, it's terrible. And you just really have to like it.
It's those moments of breakthroughs where the joke works and the audience laughs, and you even have your first, second, third, whatever good night. Right. Like that's what kind of keeps you going.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it definitely just gets easier. Like even, I mean, in some ways it was like starting over a little bit, like moving to LA and like it was like starting over in a new scene, right? Like you're not starting, you still bring with you all the like experience and material, but like it does just get so much easier when at least you have like one friendly face, right? Like I think that's like now in LA, like I would say maybe 60% of the time, if I do a show, I'll probably know at least one person, you know, but once you get to like, probably in another year or two, it's like, once you get to the point where like, at least you'll know one person when you show up to a show or a mic, then you can like relax and like just focus on what you're doing and not.
You're talking about people on the show, the producers, the other performers, like or people in the audience?
Yeah. Like
not the audience.
No. I mean, the audience is whoever it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
What did people say when you first started doing stand-up comedy and you kind of, because it sounds like you loved it 3-4 weeks into your class and you're like, this is what I want to do. And you probably told your parents, your brothers, Kim, what were people saying? Were they like, that's awesome? Were they like, you're fucking crazy? Somewhere in between? A little bit of both?
No, honestly, everybody was just like, that's awesome. Like, you sound really excited about it. Like, hell yeah, go for it. Like, everyone was very supportive. And then, like, it also became really clear to me, like, very quickly, I kind of had, like, I can't remember is it Inception or whatever, but it was like one of those moments where it was just like, I realized like this is like absolutely what I want to do with my life. And then I just like had this moment where I like looked back and realized like every single thing leading up to that, like, of course that's what I wanted to do.
Right. Like, and that's actually the thought I had. Cause like, I don't really have like any follow-up questions. Like what made you want to do stand-up comedy? Just hearing everything you've told me about yourself and your personality and the things you were into and the type of kid you were and making the funny videos, even just for fun. Like not even for any reason, like it all kind of makes sense. What comedian were you into? Like other stand-up comedians, watching a lot of stand-up comedy, or not? Because like you don't necessarily have to be. Like sometimes you just, I mean, obviously you end up seeing a lot of people when you get into the scene.
Right. I mean, when I was like, I think I started watching more stand-up probably when I was maybe in high school, and it was just kind of like. Whatever was even on. I don't really think I was like seeking it out, but you know, I definitely watched like, half-hour Comedy Central stuff, or like I really liked like Kathy Griffin. I liked Margaret Cho. I loved Sarah Silverman. Like when I first saw her, I was like, oh my God, I was obsessed. But before that, it was more like comedy movies and comedy actors. You know, I was kind of, my SNL generation was like Molly Shannon and Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry and like Maya Rudolph and all those people. So, you know, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, like I was very kind of, that was the generation for me that was the most like, oh, this was the best cast, you know?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, you get comedy like stand-up comedy influences, I'm guessing, from all, it doesn't have to be from just studying 1 hour specials of everyone. You can get comedy influences from your family, from your friends, from sitcoms, from movies, from music, from anywhere. I'm sure you get inspiration and stories and ideas and things from. When did you move to LA? I was going to ask.
I moved to LA 2 years ago.
Oh, so you're fairly new.
Yeah.
It seems like you've been here forever. I don't know. That's just the vibe and the.
It's only been 2 years. Like 2 years this month. Like I moved here, and you know, I'm like, damn, gotta subtract like 150 days and counting. Like in terms of all this quarantine stuff, it's like obviously been a bit of a pause.
Yeah, true. But you're writing and you're working on content, and I feel like I've taken up a lot of your time already. But why don't you tell me about some of the other things you're working on? Because I know you're in things, you're working on things, you're writing things, even beyond stand-up. Yeah,
I mean, what I've been focused on the last few months is just like I have a pilot that I've been working on that I do want to get made, and I want to pitch it, and it's, you know, more in the realm of like I would call it kind of like girls but gay, and you know, kind of that dramedy vibe. And then I like have a show that I made in Canada that I want to make as like a full half-hour unscripted comedy out here. And again, it's just like kind of a collective pause has happened. So it was like right before we were basically getting ready to go out and start pitching it, everything kind of shut down.
Yeah, that stinks.
Yeah, but in some ways, like, it's been better because, like, it's sort of just like, okay, are all your materials as strong as they could possibly be? Like, is all of your pitch documents, like, in the best possible way? Like, is this script, like, as sharp as it could, you know, like, it's kind of given, I'm trying to, like, use that time to my advantage versus just being like, this sucks, you know?
Yeah. All those questions in terms of the things I'm working on, or the answers are no, unfortunately. Is your script ready? Is it polished? Are you working on it enough? No, leave me alone. I felt like I was getting grilled personally there.
No.
For a second. And I know. We're all talking to ourselves having these conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. It sounds like I can kind of guess or gather, but what is like your long-term goals or short-term goals or dreams? Is it to be writing and producing your own show and starring it, doing the stand-up specials and touring? What is like your different goals, even medium term or longer term kind of goals?
I mean, the ultimate goal that I'm seeking out is I would either like to end up selling this like scripted pilot and like producing and starring and writing in my own show, or selling this unscripted show, same kind of deal, or be on SNL. Those are my three big pathways that I'm sort of like pursuing. But I definitely am on the like, I like to like write and make and be in my own stuff. That's kind of, I think, where I feel like I fit, you know?
Is stand up a means to an end in a sense, or are you like one of those people who's gonna do stand up forever and ever, or is it like sometimes, like, where does stand up fit into your life, do you see?
I would say that stand up is definitely not a means to an end. I mean, I'd like to be kind of like just some of the other sort of like powerhouse women that have like an Amy Schumer, you know, where she's like stand up, she's touring, she puts out an hour like every like year or two, but she also had Inside Amy, you know, or like Chelsea Handler, right? Like she had different shows, but can also go and tour. Like I think those are kind of my big aspirational touch points.
It's just one other thing you want to do, but it's always going to be part of your existence.
For sure.
Cool.
Because I think that's what's kind of led everything. That's like what started everything, and I think that's where like I learned about, you know, trying to just develop, which I haven't completely figured out, but just having my own voice and making my own shit.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's all a journey.
Just one day at a time.
I'm trying. Why don't you tell people where they could find you, follow you, anything else you want to mention, cover, talk about? I'll give you the floor and
yeah, I mean, I would say I'm most active on Instagram for sure.
Dogs and denim.
Dogs and denim, yeah.
I did my research. Plus, I follow
Dogs
you.
And denim, for sure. Yeah, you get on Instagram, Cara Cons Comedy, dogs, denim, and like reality shows about love. That's basically what I like to post about.
Those are very universal things that people can definitely relate to and enjoy. Well, again, I appreciate your time, and it's been fun. I enjoyed hearing your story, and we'll talk more soon. Hopefully, I'll see you on a stage. I guess
I know.
2021, 2022?
2021, I'm hoping. Let's be optimistic.
Yeah, hopefully. Cross our fingers. Anyway, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
You got it. Later.
So there you have it. My conversation with Cara Connors. That was a lot of fun, and I definitely thank her for taking the time. She seemed to laugh at a fair amount of my jokes, and when a professional comedian laughs at your jokes, those laughs count extra. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. Thanks again for listening. You guys are awesome. I appreciate the support. Thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.